It's like that scene. It's like that scene where it's like,
good to see you, bad guy. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike.
we're basically Arnold Schwarzenegger.
And Carl Weathers, R.I.P.
I know, right?
King. We are the brothers Murph, and
Are we not, Carl?
we work together on this channel, Nick.
Yes, we do.
You say we cooperate.
Yes,
from
we do.
time to time,
Every day.
and so it's time to talk about our favorite cooperative games.
We love cooperative games.
We do.
Yeah,
That's what got us going in this
it
whole
is.
hobby.
And I think cooperative games are generally you can alpha game things in quarterback games and ruin it for people. So don't do that, first of all. But co-op games are a great way to get people in the hobby because in competitive games you're going against people. A lot of people can be intimidated by that, or if they have rules questions they don't want to ask because they're worried that it's going to give away their strategy or something like that. In a co-op game, I feel like so many of those problems are kind of assuaged. They're kind of just like mellowed out because you're like, I'll ask because we're on the same team. Like, what does this card do? You know,
table
kind of
talk is like really encouraged, and I think that's a positive thing also for creating a really fun memory because we're all having a chat and having a good time.
And just in general, it's cool. It is also like something you've never seen in board games. If you've only played like the Monopoly, the Candyland, it's like, oh, we're working together. That's cool. You know, So yeah, we love co-op games. There's a whole bunch of them, and we're gonna get into them. After we mention that there's another 10 on our Patreon.
That's right. We have 10 more games to talk about, but only for our patrons. So if you like what we do here, please consider being a
like
patron.
First Impressions over there. You did one for Endeavor Deep Sea.
I did indeed.
We have extra stuff. We did an extra Would You Rather. We have a lot of times when we do these kind of big videos, we do an extra one over on our Patreon. So make sure to check that out if you want some more Bros Murph content, because there's actually a ton of stuff over there now.
Absolutely. And with that, let's hop right into our 10 that's for y'all. Hey, real quick. Nick's not really willing to work with me and be cooperative on trying to get you to subscribe. Don't even worry. No, don't even worry about it, man. I'm doing something. Don't even worry about it, man. All right, listen. Okay, so I need you to cooperate with me. Click the subscribe button. Don't tell Nick. Don't tell him.
This is a new one.
It's a new one.
And I don't know how much we'll play this game, but I really want to play it more.
I really want to play more. This is Primal the Awakening.
Yeah, I really liked it.
Yeah, we just did a playthrough video of this, and I was really blown away by how much I enjoyed it because it isn't. Well, I shouldn't say it isn't our kind of game because we do like these kinds of games.
Yes, we do.
But this is a big boss battling game.
Yeah.
So there's a big old monster, and you are kind of like maneuvering around to different sides to get it in the flank or whatever.
Big old weapons.
With these giant weapons, and you can, like all these campaign games, you can upgrade your equipment through time, get better cards and stuff.
Fight new monsters,
You know what I mean? And there's obviously a lot of these types of games. And take your pick, right? There's a lot of really great ones.
Many of them are very good. This gets compared to Monster Hunter World the most. The board game Monster Hunter World, which is also very, very good. This kind of pseudo replaced that one because that was kind of our go-to for the big boss battle, which I do enjoy, but I think I like Primal more.
Yeah, Primal...
it's just simpler. It's just streamlined.
It has some streamlined things. It's a little more dynamic. There's a few things that we really dug about this one. It's card play based, and that I appreciate versus just rolling dice.
Yes.
It's totally fine to have dice and stuff, but it's fun. And this one really puts a priority on how the order that you play your cards in. You're literally playing what they call like a sequence. Like it's a sequence of your moves. Your what you're deflecting with, what you're attacking with. And many things are going to be, buffeted by like what you played prior. So if you play a red card and you follow it with this, other card, you're going to get some sort of boost and stuff. So I really enjoy that kind of combo-y nature. And again, what it reflects is what you're doing is you're doing this like combination against this big monster. And then the other thing that's really, really cool is a lot of these games sort of have your player phase and then the monster activates and then the players go and the monster activates, which again is fine. But this one has a dynamic system where maybe a certain color of card you play, or if you do a certain action or do a certain thing, it's going to trigger one of the behaviors on the monster. And
those are all randomly put out there, so you don't. So
it's
it might
a deck
be
of
like
cards.
Yeah, and it might be like, oh, if you start your turn by their tail, they're then going to do this attack. So you're like, okay, let's not make sure I don't start by their tail. But you're like, oh, but I need to be by their tail for certain reasons. So you're like, screw it, I'll just take the behavior hit and I'll see what it is. And sometimes a new one comes out, you're like, well, that's going to hit me because I'm right in that zone where that's going to be. And so it's kind of cool because you can avoid it, but not really to always. And sometimes you're like, screw it, I'm just going to get hit by it anyway. Or you're like, I'm going to get this whole hand. I'm like, oh, I have all these red cards are going to be great. And then it's like, red is what causes them to hit. And you're like, crap, they're going to like really wall up on me if I play all these red cards. And it makes an interesting decision space where it's a lot of like, cause and effect where you're like, is this worth me playing this card to take this hit kind of thing?
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
There's exactly right. I think it creates a lot of interesting decisions. I think it's cool that like in the middle of your combo, the monster's like doing a tail whip at you real quick, and then you go back to your turn, so it interrupts that turn immediately, and I just think that's really kind of neat and fun. And, you know, there's, again, a lot of these kind of fight a big thing. There's Oathsworn and all these games, and this one is just a little more streamlined, a little easier with the kind of card play, but gives you those kind of big, epic moments and stuff. So it's been one that, again, really surprised me. Like, I was like, wow, this is actually really,
and I feel like of
really
all
solid.
these, this is one we could potentially get to the table more. Who knows if we actually will. We never get games like this to the table. But I think we might actually with this one, and that's what makes me excited for
There's a few things that are just easy with like setup. Like you have this little board and your monster sits on there and it just rotates. It doesn't move around a huge board. So it's actually kind of contained for having gigantic minis.
Yeah, totally.
So that is number 10, everybody. Primal, The Awakening.
Number 9 is another game that we don't play very often, but God, when we do, it's great.
It's super cool, man. This is Return to Dark Tower.
It's so fun.
Return to Dark Tower.
It's like a once-a-year game, but man, that one time a year, it's so good.
Think about it, man. You can get so thematic and stuff. This is a game that is a redo from Restoration Games of the original Dark Tower.
Yes.
In the old version and now the new one, it was really centered around this tower piece in the middle and the way that you kind of interact with it, and it's very kind of cutting edge. In the original one, you had all the stuff you could like program into it, and it would do things. And this one, it uses App Assist to tell you the story of what's going on. You are basically moving around this circular board that's these 4 kingdoms. Each player will sort of be in charge of a kingdom. And you are running around trying to kind of cleanse the lands, complete quests and things. And the tower is constantly this constant threat and this kind of threat of violence where you are at the end of your turn going to be dropping a little skull into the Dark Tower, which is sort of like a cube tower. A little bit of corruption for the land. And it's that whole mechanical device is a little cube tower. And that skull is going to go somewhere into the tower. You don't know necessarily where it stops.
You sure don't.
But there's all these basically chutes where there's doors. And as the game goes, you're going to start removing doors. And then at certain other points in the game, the tower is just going to come alive, and all of the little chambers, the little floors of the tower are going to rotate and stuff. So something that might be at an empty chamber here, I remove the door, there's no skulls, all is good. All of a sudden it rotates and a bunch of skulls start pouring out of the tower. And that's kind of corruption spreading to that kingdom wherever it kind of pops out. It just does so many cool things.
It's so cool.
This is a really, again, we don't have a chance to play this very often.
No.
But it's always fun because you have your own asymmetric character and kind of abilities and ways to upgrade your abilities and stuff like that. The fighting and everything is handled within the app. It's really kind of easy and slick. And it's very much about like this kind of like a war of attrition. Like you're going to be taking losses and stuff, and you have your little soldiers, as these kind of resources essentially. And you're sort of, kind of figuring out, what are acceptable losses? Especially when you go up for, again, you kind of, as you're going around and doing these quests stuff, you're going to draw out the big bad out of the tower. They're going to eventually leave the tower and face down with you and stuff. And that one is going to be a fight that, like, you're not going to get done in one shot.
No,
you're going to kind of whittle
fight.
down and have to kind of regroup and get everyone on the team up there to kind of fight this big thing and overcome it.
Well, and it's cool because even if you're playing like the same scenario, I think it's scenario based or something like quest based or whatever.
There's different like stories.
There's different side quests because it's all done by the app. The enemies turn up are different. They'll be in different places. It's like. It's one of those things where like this is a game where I think like campaign games like this are interesting with app stuff because it's like even if you're playing the same thing it's like the same thing over and over and over again. It's like it's always going to be slightly different. So even if you're just having a good time doing this one scenario, it's like cool. You can keep doing that scenario because it's always going to be a little bit different. And it's just cool. The tower is like a huge gimmick, but it's like an insane gimmick.
It's really cool though. It's legitimately cool.
Every time they're like, you must open a door, and then the tower will go brrr, and then a door will light up. Every time you have to remove a door, every time the thing starts moving, every time you drop a thing in, everyone's just like, oh what's gonna happen? Because it's so exciting every single. We come like you're like. He's like giddy and stuff. It's just amazing. Yeah. And on top of that, it's just a really fun game on top of that. But the gimmick is like absolutely S tier, and it's just so good.
They put their all into like the R&D of that tower, and it was really worth it.
It was a nightmare to do, I'm sure.
Oh, I can't even.
But we
know a little bit of how hard it was to make, and it's just like
such a pain in the ass,
though.
But worth it, man. I tell you.
So that's number 9. Return to Dark Tower.
we understand games are about winning and losing, and you can't technically lose this game.
No, you can
It's
just
really
do better
just to
or
beat your
worse.
high score, but Don't From Antique is so much fun.
It is so much fun.
It's just the perfect, relaxing,
Very cozy,
chill
relaxed.
game. Yes, this is a game where you are kind of Carcassonne style. You're trying to make a landscape, although it's not like Carcassonne because you can't have a forest go into a farm. You can do whatever the heck you want. But basically what's going to be happening is you're going to be on your turn drawing out a landscape tile that's going to have like rivers, some railroads, forest, villages, farms.
Villages, yeah.
And you're going to be putting it somewhere next to something else, these hex tiles, and you're going to have these tasks out on the board. The tasks are going to basically be like, in this forest needs to be 4 tiles big. Once you make that forest 4 tile big, you complete that task, boom, and then the next turn, someone has to bring out a new task, because there always has to be 3 on the board. And then, but if there's already 3 tasks, then you just grab
working toward those tasks.
Yeah, you're just working towards those tasks. And you're just sitting here talking, be like, oh, let's put this one over here because I'm building this village out and stuff like that. It's just so darn casual. And then the end of the game ends when you're kind of out of tiles. And then you basically, for the most part, count up every task that you completed, like a 4 task, is worth 4 points. You count up all the tasks you completed, and that's your score. And then as you go on, you can kind of, as you score, you're going to unlock more and more stuff, which is essentially just more ways to score. But it's just so casual and nice. This is a game where you could literally come in, place a tile, go do something else. It won't change anything. People can just come in and out. It's just so relaxing and just so chill. It's just that perfect end of the evening game.
Yeah, it's a perfect end of the evening game, and it's just fun that you have these boxes and different bits of content, new types of tiles. And so as you're going, it's not like nothing matters. It's like you're unlocking new tiles, which are going to hopefully give you a chance to have a better and better score as you go through the game. And that's something I think is like really fun. It's just like, oh, we got this little goodie. Oh, now we can put this new tile, and it works this way, or we have this kind of new goal to go for. So it keeps the interest level there.
Yeah, and it's fun just
while being very casual and chilled out, which for us is like, something like that end of the evening game, something that's really relaxing and stuff, is something that is, what we tend to have the brain power for after you get a little, crazy toddler down to bed finally. So this kind of game is really kind of perfect for the moment right now. Love the way that they kind of translated the video game into the art on the tiles. I think works really well. It's just got some cozy good vibes. And there's another one coming, and I can't wait to try that.
Yeah, right. And there's the dual one, which is the only one I'm not too sure about.
I think it'll be cool. But that one is actually competitive.
Yeah, it is.
So I'm curious what that.
But yeah, Don't From Antique Sakura, which dropped at Essen. I'm very excited about that. Yeah, it's like I'm very excited about all of them, really.
Absolutely, the story from Antique. Number 7, about big head Marvel characters called Marvel United.
Yeah, that's right. Big head.
They have big heads.
Do
they not have big heads?
The only chibi minis I like. I'm not really into chibi minis.
The minis in Marvel United are so.
It's the reason why I wanted to start playing the game. Marvel United is a cooperative game, obviously. Whoa, shocker. But this is a game where you're going to take a group of heroes, and there's a whole bunch of Marvel United. Every Marvel character you can think of basically is in there.
Not just Marvel anymore either. So
yeah, now you have DC too. Gosh. So you can take different characters, and they're each going to have their own unique deck of cards, which again is mostly pretty similar to everyone else. And then you're going to get some kind of big villain, and then your locations around the board are set in kind of big circle, and you're basically moving around to these various locations, defeating thugs, rescuing these little civilians, and then trying to hit the big villain. All the villains work differently. They have different ways that you can hit them or can't hit them, different ways that they attack you. They also have their own deck of cards that are going to be coming out. So basically, like, I'll take a turn, the next person takes a turn, the next person takes a turn, and then the villain takes a turn. And so every 3 turns, the villain takes a turn. And then that will increase to every 2 turns. And so it's got this really interesting, really, truly cooperative nature to it. Because sometimes games are cooperative, but you're still kind of all doing your own thing. You're just kind of all in the same team. This one, you're actively helping each other, because whatever the last card that was played before you play your first card, you then get to use the symbols on that card. So when you play your card, you're like, oh, I can use the symbols on this card and the symbols on the card before me. So you can be like, okay, I'm going to play this one because I know you're going to need some movement. Yeah. So I'm going to play this movement card so that you can also use it on your turn. So there's a lot of discussion and then a lot of cooperation. And then on top of that, the game is just like simple, easy, and there's just a butt ton of content for it.
Oh my gosh, there's, would you say there's 100 heroes easy, right?
There's way more than that. There's so many more than that.
There's all these different heroes to play, all these different versions of heroes and stuff, and then really the game the dynamicness of it comes from the villains. So all of the villains, like you said, have a different kind of like their scheme, what they're doing, their kind of style.
Yeah.
And those are really varied.
They are,
present very different kind of challenges and essentially a little puzzle for you each time. It's like, okay, well, we have to do this and this and this, then we can attack them.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of change it up. And the heroes have enough uniqueness to them where you're going to have like, you know, out of 10 cards, 7 or 6 of them are going to be kind of standard, you know, the standard action types, because this is a kind of entry-level game. And then a few things that feel more Hulk-like. And I think that's a really cool thing is that it gives you enough to kind of want to try different characters and stuff, but really, I like going through and trying different villains because it's very different every time. You're like, oh man, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, now we have to do it this way.
It's so, and the thing about this game, and this is what originally drew me to it, other than just the fact that I wanted to paint the minis, was just like,
which are my favorite maybe
absolutely
ever. They're so cool.
they're so good.
They're so playful. Like,
I don't know what it is. They're just so good.
Little things like Ant-Man's just like on a coin, you know. And I'm like, this is awesome.
They're very creative.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, so we have. I don't say a problem with these kinds of games, but a lot of like big CMON games like Zombicide, or even just big campaign games like, you know, Tainted Grail or Gloomhaven or whatever, it's like these games have so much content in them that you'll never play with it all. You'll never play with it all, because on top of that, all those games tend to be bigger, longer games. It's like, if I have 100 heroes in Zombicide, but each Zombicide game is 2 hours, I'll never play with it. This game is 30 minutes like max. So you can actually play with the stuff you have. You can literally be like, I'm gonna play with every single villain. You can do that because you can knock out 3 or 4 in an evening if you want to. And so it's like, I for years kept being like, I want a big crazy CMON game, but that plays in 30 minutes. And they finally gave it to me. And it's great. I love it.
Lo and behold, you've collected almost everything for it. So.
For the first one, I have not collected anything for X-Men, and I didn't get all of the multiverse. I'm not going to get everything. I'm not one of those. I don't need everything. I already have way too much.
You have plenty enough. Plenty enough.
I want it.
Yeah, it is super fun, and it's, again, on top of being able to play, it's a nice painting project for you to boot.
Very slowly.
That's Marvel United. Next up is a version of Codenames Duet. Although I'd say even Codenames, you're playing on teams, so it's kind of cooperative within your team anyway. But Codenames Duet is the fully cooperative 2-player version of Codenames where, you know.
I'm sure people, but Codenames Duet. Codenames Duet is incredible. Codenames Duet is
we'd
so
leave it off
good.
the list if it wasn't so amazing.
It's so good. Because I even like, do we really want to put Codenames on here? I'm like, yeah. Codenames Duet is so freaking good.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. It is.
Sorry, I was just like,
yeah. That's why we keep coming back to it. Don't add us, man. Codenames Duet is a game where you're going to have a grid of cards, unless you're playing our special version. A grid of cards is 25 cards. And we are giving clues back and forth to point toward the various cards that are our agents. And in the 2-player version, we are using the same grid of cards, but we have certain words that are only for me, certain words that are for both of us, certain words that are assassins, which will end the game immediately. We have different assassins and things like that. And you're trying to give these clues, and the kind of the whole hitch of all the Codenames games is that I can give one clue, but I can hopefully make it point to several of my words. You want to be as efficient as you can and give a clue that's going to point to, you know, there's like a sheep, a cow, and a horse. You might say like farm for 3. There's 3 words amongst these that pertain, in my mind, to a farm. You might be like, well, there's all these farm animals. Let me make that guess. And you're going back and forth like that. Now, what did we do recently, Nick?
So this is not just, we didn't put this on just as a plug for our video, but we're going to plug our video anyway, because we think it's really fun.
Plug it.
So we played, we called Code Games, and we played Codenames Duet. We're just playing normal Codenames Duet, but with board games, which is already kind of weird that it doesn't exist. At least as far as we know. But we actually put the games on the floor and got these big pointer sticks so that we could point it. And we played a game of Codenames, but with board game covers.
Yeah, so those are like your clue words, or just these different board games.
Yeah, it was really, really fun. So make sure to check out that video. There'll be a link in the description and a card popping up right here. Make sure to check out that video, because I think it's really, really fun, and it works perfectly.
Yeah, now you should all try that at home, because like we all have board games, and it's kind of a fun way to...
25 of them, that's it.
Yeah, and it's kind of a fun way to like try to think of the game, and it works as good as random words, because those are random words too. But yeah, Codenames is one that we always really enjoy the heads-up kind of cooperative nature of trying to get in each other's minds, making really specific clues, especially with like, you know, any kind of clue-giving game. If you know your audience, it's all the better. So in a 2-player version, it's a great way to kind of like get, you know, this is an inside joke that only we know, and boom, we're going to put it down here. and try to like just mind meld,
Yeah,
man. It's
yeah.
always fun to do. It's always interesting. It's always a challenge.
Yeah.
And the Codenames Duet game has kind of like scenarios you can play, which are going to give you maybe fewer or more turns, or
I've read this little campaign.
you can only make like one mistake all game long, and different things like ways to kind of challenge your game, which is really extra fun. And it's one that we keep coming back to.
This one was a really big surprise. This was Art Project.
Yeah, we had two on this list that I was like so pleasantly surprised with. Yeah, the Art Project is a game from the Op.
Yeah.
And this is a cooperative game where you are we're I think the art recovery team or something like that. The art rescue team.
Yeah, something like that.
And we are recovering valuable pieces of art from
stolen by the White Hand.
The White Hand, this criminal organization that's stealing all this art, and in each scenario, you're in a different country, and you're kind of going around the country and recovering this art, kind of fighting against the bad guys and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's really, really cool because you have your card play, and the cards allow you to do things. They allow you to move around. They allow you to shoot. They allow you to do things like that. And you need gas and things. And it was really, really cool is you're moving around, but then as the White Hand is basically putting more and more of their agents out, certain like cities and stuff will basically get shut down because they're kind of like overrun by the White Hand.
Yeah.
So it makes movement harder, and and more art pieces are kind of coming out, so you have to like rush over and try to get them, but you're on a really limited time crunch, and the resources are also like really, really limited.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, the different scenarios, the different countries you're in massively change the games.
Yeah.
Because like in the first one you're playing, I think is the first one in Japan?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. So Japan, it's kind of like the basic map, but it's kind of like a big loop is like the area you're able to go to, and it's kind of a little more open. But then the next one is Egypt, and in Egypt you're specifically going up and down the Nile because that's a great way to travel, right?
So it's
going
one line
down
of
the
cities.
map, it's like exactly, and so you can kind of get completely cut off. But also like going down the map is really easy because you're going with the current, but then going up the map is really, really difficult. And so it's like this weird thing where like there's always this like cost analysis. You're like, oh gosh, is this worth doing this? Like, is it worth to kind of like, we just got to like, the White Hand's got this, we're going to ignore it. It was so interesting. And we were like, this is incredibly fun. I was blown away at how fun it was.
Yeah, and it's a really tough challenge because a lot of the cards you play are going to provide resources, but also spend some resources.
Yes.
And there's only ever like, I think up to 5 of any one kind on your van. And it's going to be important to like, pay attention and play your cards strategically where it's like, okay, I'm going to put, this down is going to provide a gun, which you can then use on your card. It's going to need to spend a gun, but if we do those things in the wrong
and you're like,
way, then it's not going to have the resources to use.
We really need to do this thing, and I have a card that allows us to do it, but it's also going to make things way worse.
Yeah, because every card you play also adds hands,
putting out corruption and stuff like that. So you're just like, we can do this, but it's gonna make the situation worse. And there's this constant table talk, this constant like cost analysis of like, gosh, is this worth it? And it's really, really fun.
The thing that throws an extra stitch into all those things about like which card do you play maybe has kind of like a negative effect for what's going on, but you need to symbol match amongst the cards in order to produce the art for you to then go recover it.
Yeah.
So it's also like, I'm near the city.
Yeah.
This would produce, one of these art pieces right here. There's not really any hand in the city, so it'd be easy to actually recover, but it's going to make this other city over here bad. And so there's a lot of interesting decisions, and it is not easy.
It's hard.
It is properly difficult. But with great vintage trade art and stuff, and the Op just like killed it with it. It's a cool world. Like I would love to see a show set in this like weird, wacky kind of world.
Like kind of like the because you feel kind of like the A-Team, but you're just recovering art.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, that'd be a dope show.
It'd be fun. Yeah.
So anyway, that is the Art Project.
I feel like this is a game that both of us had given up on.
Oh. Yeah, I was
out. And this is a Too Many Bones. But now we're back in. Me, I say even more so than you. I
really enjoy it now.
Yeah, Too Many Bones, here's the thing about chip theory games. You got to get over the hump. There's a hump in every single one.
Yes, there is.
There's just a hump that you got to get over. And Too Many Bones is yeah, we're actually using.
Speaking of,
we're actually
gear lock coasters.
Thanks, Chip. Yeah, they send us coasters. We use these coasters all the time.
Yeah, we do.
So shouts out.
That's not why it's in the video, but
shouts out there. Yeah,
it's just
little gear lock coasters.
These games require investment.
They do.
Or rather, I should say, they reward you for investing.
Yes. Yeah, I guess you don't have to because it's one of the things like so. Too Many Bones is a game where you are taking a gear lock, which are like the heroes, and you're going to be going up against some kind of tyrant that's kind of like the big bad, and you're basically going through these different like encounters, which are just random cards out of a deck, and so there's a whole bunch of them, so you're never gonna get the same situation. And then basically, as you complete enough of these encounters, you're making enough progress, you then can go fight the big boss. And depending on what boss it is, it can take more or less time. There's some that take not too much time, some that might take multiple hours, like you have to go through a whole bunch of stuff. And then as you're going through these encounters, you're gonna be getting rewards for beating them. Yep. And those rewards are mostly they're gonna be like stat increases, but a lot of times there's gonna be skill increases, which is you adding more of your dice to your characters. Because what this is essentially is a big dice pool, dice building game, really.
Yeah, you're building up your available dice pool, and increasing your stats so you can roll more dice and things like that.
Yeah.
And then as you go into these encounters, you're carrying these dice with you. Now, if you've upgraded your kind of attack stat, you can roll more attack dice. Your defense / kind of maneuvering statistic will let you move around and protect yourself a little better. And then you have all these kind of specialty dice. That's where the real flavor of the game comes out, because these gear locks are all very different.
Yes,
and they have different styles. Some are more supportive, some are more tanky, some are more glass cannon. And the dice that come with them are going to be where the flavor kind of comes out. So if I'm going to do an attack, maybe I just roll some couple of basic attack dice and stuff. I'm going to drop my big boomer, and this thing's going to blow up and do all sorts of area effects and various things like that, assuming you hit with it. And that's kind of like where the fun comes in.
Yeah.
The other kind of cool thing that is like you're going to miss sometimes. Maybe a lot of times.
You get wrecked sometimes.
You can roll bones, and there's bones on all the dice and things. And the cool thing is like it's not just a like, nothing, nothing doing here, now we're out. As you roll these bones, you're actually going to allocate them to this kind of little track.
Your backup plan.
Your little backup plan. And it's, the idea is just like, okay, well, that didn't work, so I'm going to do this. And once you get to, I think, 3 or 4 or 5 of these dice in that, you can trigger these kind of bigger abilities and stuff. And I kind of love that, where it's like, hey, we understand those dice didn't go your way, but here's this kind of cool thing you can do instead, and you're not necessarily planning for that to be your plan.
It's never what you want to happen, for the most part.
But it's nice to have a backup plan.
It's nice to have
it. Feels thematic.
Yeah, you're like, okay, well, I can do this now. That's nice. But this is a game, it says it requires repeat plays, but mostly it requires repeat plays with the same character, because unless you're playing one of the really, really long ones, you're not going to, for the most part, you're not going to unlock all of your dice.
No.
So it's like, it's figuring out how to build out your character, because as you build out these different dice, it's going to change the way your character works, because even amongst a character, it's like, sure, this might be the tanky character, but it can tank in these different ways.
Yeah.
And then depending on what like tyrant you're going against, you're like, oh, because I'm going against this one, they kind of do this in their big fight. I need to build in this specific way, or else I'm going to get wrecked once I get there, because you need to kind of, and you have to learn those things. So this is a situation where it's like you want to play the same character like 10 times to really learn them and to really figure them out, and then get that engine humming, and then you can switch to the next one. And there's a whole bunch of different gear locks, and that's because like the tyrants are all different, the encounters are different, the various versions of Too Many Bones are different, but like the game itself, when you break it down to like brass tacks, like the rules of the game is not that complicated.
No.
Now, there are a lot of edge cases, because there's a lot of different keywords. You're like, how does this work in this specific situation?
They have a big old nice laminated sheet, so it has all those answers.
Yeah, and Google it. Everyone has asked, any question you have, someone else has asked it already. But it's like the game itself is not that complicated.
Yeah.
And so you can actually kind of get into it, because it's cooperative. You can kind of help each other out, especially if like, I really know Mike's character. I can kind of help him out, build it. It's just really fun, but it does take that time where it's like, one, you just got to understand, like sometimes you're just going to get wrecked. And then two, it's like, you just got to kind of keep going through it. But if you do, the reward is immense. And that's true of a lot of chip theory games, but I think Too Many Bones, which I think is their most popular game, that is exceptionally true.
Yeah, it's just there's so much to mine there. There are so many characters, all these different tyrants and stuff. Like, this is one that if you really want to get into and make it a lifestyle game, there's so much for you there, which is really, really cool. And once we kind of got over that hump and really, gave it a couple more plays, then I started to see the richness of it and see kind of like what the game is, and started playing it on its own terms. And then I unlocked so much fun. So that's what Too Many Bones.
be coming on down to Baltimore. Go check out the Ravens this Sunday.
The Sky Team. I was doing a plain captain impression.
Yeah,
accurately.
It was perfectly done.
This is Sky Team. This is a 2-player cooperative dice allocation game.
Spiel's Yards winner.
Spiel's Yards winner. Where we are on a final approach to an airport, and we're trying to land that bird safe and sound. And it's kind of going through all of the necessary steps to preparing a plane for landing.
Screaming, crying,
reading the manual for the first time. This is a game where we are, getting our landing gear down, deploying our flaps, kind of, mitigating our approach. Like, how fast are we coming in? We need to arrive at the airport right on time. You want to come in nice and flat and stuff like that. And we are playing as a pilot and co-pilot as we, take turns putting our dice into the various kind of spots that we each have. We each have our kind of own menu of spaces we can go to. And of course, based on what you roll, it's going to dictate, what you can go to, because most spaces require certain values. Or there's a lot of planes and you need to get them clear with the radio. So if you're the co-pilot in particular, you're really working that radio trying to clear planes, and which ones you clear will be dependent on, again, the value of your die. And we just find it really, really, awesome. It's just a really fun, kind of cool theme for a game.
It's very cool.
It's
just different.
It's just different and stuff.
It's just different, yeah.
And this game gives you, we're talking about like a lot of content. This one in particular, in a small package, gives you so much stuff. There's all these scenarios, both different airports to land in, which will have their own kind of requirements and things like that. Some are easier, some are harder. And then there's also kind of like actual scenarios where it's like, maybe you have a kerosene leak, so you have to manage your fuel. There's one thing where you have like an intern, essentially. There's all these things you can do to increase the difficulty level or kind of the replayability of the game. And just the base game with the base scenario is already super fun. It's just one that we've just like really liked. I think it's, another instance of unique theme. We're all in. I want to know more.
It's just cool. It's fun. It's different. It feels different. It's stressful. It's tense. It's just cool. It's just cool and different. And I'm glad that it kind of took the world by storm for a bit, because I'm just like, this is, again, there's nothing wrong with just being like, this is like another deck builder. That's great. But it's like, it's cool when someone's doing something different. Scorpion Mask, who makes the game, very often are doing very different kind of games. They're really thinking outside the box, have been for years. And I'm really just hyped about Sky Team. I'm really excited for the expansion. It's just a cool game.
That is Sky Team. It's one that I'm looking forward to. There's little birds and different things. And shouts to Scorpion Mask. Keep doing what you're doing.
This is another game we kind of gave up on. Or I did, at least.
This is one that there's a journey, and every time we've done a list like this before, people go, why no Spirit Island?
Where's Spirit Island? This is you. This is you, comment section. Where's Spirit Island?
We hadn't really played it in a while. And didn't really appreciate it. And then I started playing it, and then Nick has now started playing it. And now, guess what? It's number 2 on our list. We get it.
It's true.
We get it, everybody.
It's very
good.
Great.
Spirit Island is a cooperative game where you are the spirits of this island, kind of protecting the Dahan, the native peoples that live here, where these invaders are coming in and kind of, blighting the land and stuff like that. So you are using your kind of spiritual powers via card play to, maneuver the invaders into certain areas, to set up kind of these sacred sites and stuff, and do these kind of big attacks, and all in kind of the name of generating fear. As you destroy buildings and stuff, you start generating fear, and as you start generating more and more fear, it kind of propels the game forward and makes it easier for you to finally run these people off. Because at the start of the game, you need to get rid of every single piece, every building, every city, every just kind of standard little dude. But as the fear level increases, you can get by with only getting rid of these certain things. And it gets easier and easier because they're getting more and more freaked out by these lightning spirits flying around doing stuff. And I think it's just a really cool theme for a game. And like a lot of the games on this list, each spirit is very different from each other. They have a different style.
You gotta learn them,
You gotta learn them. There's different, kind of abilities. You want to get certain cards with certain icons to kind of power them up. Some are, again, more assist heavy, more, direct and kind of doing fast attacks. There's cards that, attack fast and slow. If it's slow, it's gonna be after the invaders take their turn, so you can kind of like sort of slow play it and get a plan for this back half. There's a ton of stuff to explore just with the different types of spirits and then how they combo together and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's nuts. I mean, people say all the time, and it's very, very true. They're like, I played this game 100 times. I still feel like I've barely scratched the surface.
I know,
Like,
that's cool.
That is Spirit Island. I mean, because you can play the same spirit over and over and over and over again, and then learn them. And this is also a game that a lot of people, I would probably say most people probably play solo.
Yeah.
It's a great solo experience. It's just like, it's just one of those games that, like, even though I wasn't a huge fan when we first played it, like the first couple times, I was just like, I understand why people like this game.
Sure.
And again, it's one of those games we kind of had to give a couple of shout outs to Tara, my friend Tara. She loves this game. And
So she sat you down and said, all right,
we're playing this game again. And that kind of reignited. I was like, oh, that's right, this is good. I think when we first played it, it was probably a little too heavy.
It's a little over our heads.
It's a lot of thinking and stuff like that. But it's just so cool. And all the spirits are different, like you said. And if you enjoy learning and like really deep diving, these kinds of games are it. Spirit Island, you really, really should play. There's so many expansions for it.
Yeah.
There's like Horizon Spirit Island, which is a slightly easier version that's sold in like Targets and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So it's like
some starter things that's compatible with the main game.
yeah, it's very, very cool. Spirit Island is an absolute banger.
Yeah, I really enjoy exploring and stuff, and it is just again, the hype is deserved. We get it, we understand now, and we apologize for not getting to it sooner.
Yep. This isn't a cheat.
Why would it be?
Because it's kind of already a game before this game. Number one is Slay the Spire, baby.
Slay the Spire. We put it in. It's called foreshadowing. It was in front of your face.
Well,
the
just
whole
like
time.
because Slay the Spire is a deck building video game. It's not cooperative, to be fair. It's a solo game.
Yeah.
But it's Slay the Spire, the video game and the board game are both so freaking good.
Yeah, we had put
They're
before
so
the
good.
before the board game was ever a thing. We'd put
Hundreds of
hours
of
Slay
hours
Spire.
into the video game. Yes. And although we've played Slay the Spire, the board game, with people who have not played the video game, and they really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's not necessary. You don't have to know the.
You
video
don't
game
have to know the characters, but if you do know the characters, it's just fun because you're like, oh, this is how they did that card. Oh, because there's a lot of cards in the video game. The game is doing a lot of math for you, and so like in the board game, we all have to do that. So there's a lot of things that are simplified. Or really just streamlined more or less. And so it's cool to be like, oh, I wonder how they did this card. You're like, oh, that's how they did that card. Okay, cool. But this is a deck builder where you are in the board game version, you are on a team. You all have a character. Every character has a completely unique deck, and they all play very, very differently.
Yep.
And you are going through the spire, basically going up, and you're doing all these different encounters. You're mostly fighting these various enemies. You're going to be getting rewards, getting new cards, upgrading those cards to their better side. And eventually you're going to get to the Act 1 boss. If you defeat that boss, you then can start Act 2. You kind of start at the bottom of the next part of the spire. You're basically trying to get through all 3 acts, and that is like the game. The video game is incredible, but the board game is like, it's astonishing how good it is and how faithful it is to the game while still being a different thing. Because again, you can't take the video game and make it a board game, it just wouldn't work. So it's like how they adapted that was so good. I want to play this game all the time.
Yeah, they kept the spirit of Slay the Spire so firmly in place.
Yeah.
And the art that we know and love and
it's all
the
the same,
cards that we know and love are all there, but they actually made it really translate where you're not doing a bunch of strange math in your brain in real life.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that's really cool about this game is that it provides a true cooperative experience.
Yeah.
Because you can play a multiplayer, which Slay the Spire is not a multiplayer
I think there's a
game.
mod for it, but it's like not a real thing.
And you can play as these different heroes side by side. And when we say it's like feels truly cooperative, it's because there's no like specific turn structure. You're not playing all your cards and then I'm playing all my cards. You can play literally one of your cards and then I play a card, and you can kind of chain together what we're doing. So you might play a card that makes this, particular baddie vulnerable, and then I actually come in with the attack to make use of the status effect you put on it.
You can like give each other blocks sometimes. Like, hey, you're hurting. I'm gonna give you a block here. It's like
you're kind of row because everyone has their own row of baddies that are going to hit them. You can attack anything, but you have a certain row that's going to attack you. And I'm like, man, Nick's in danger. Let's all put our resources into knocking out all of the monsters in your row so that you're safe. And then on the next turn, we can kind of deal with our own rows. There's a lot of really cool stuff to explore with that. This gives you all the flavor of the video game where you're getting new cards. And again, everyone has their own stack of cards. And at the end of a reward, you're pulling out a few, choosing one to keep. You can upgrade cards and flip them over in their little sleeves to get the upgraded ability. There's relics you can get, which will, change each round and stuff in multiple ways. It is so well done.
It's so well done.
It really feels like Slay the Spire. But if you could combine these characters and see how they work off each other, which is a really neat thing to do, and a whole new thing that is unique from the video game. So, for our money at least, it's like, I think the board game should exist and is really cool, and it does provide something unique that the video game cannot, which is that cooperative experience.
Yeah, it's just so much fun. We did you can watch we did a stream. It's kind of broken into 2 streams because we had a technical difficulty, but it's a long stream. But we played all through 3 acts in one sitting on stream, and it was like top 5 gaming experiences ever. It was
epic.
So
because we got to get
much
properly
fun.
leveled up.
Yeah,
and
because you can play through 1 act and then stop, but like you want to like level up your character, and it was so much fun. And it's just like I love Slay the Spire. Slay the Spire, the board game. It's a big game. It's a long game. It's a lot of setup. But man, I would play it like every day if I could. I just love it so much.
Yeah, it'd be hard to beat. It is super fun. So that is number 1 on our list, everybody. We want to know what you think for cooperative games. We tried to choose some new things from times in the past that we've done these cooperative games.
Yeah.
And some of those games and others we'll be talking about over on Patreon. So again, become a patron today if you got a couple extra bucks and want to support. It really means a lot. It really does help us. You're actually seeing our patrons scroll along down here. So thank you to everyone who is a patron, past, present, or possibly future. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we got it.
In the future, become a patron. Become a patron today.
Both.
Both and the same time. That is our cooperative list. But again, put your favorite cooperative games in the comments below. We love these lists to always be, a huge recommendation pile for anyone that's coming and checking it out. And you know what? Sometimes it's just honestly really fun to work together in a board game. So that's what we're going to do maybe right now. You want to play a game?
No.
We don't have time. We don't have time for that. But we'll see y'all next time.
Thank you so much for watching that hot top 10. I want to give a big shout out to our channel sponsors, Restoration Games, Board Game Geek, Garfield Games, and Arctic Tables. And a big shout out to Condar, a wonderful backer of our Kickstarter who sponsored us for the month of October. I almost said February for some reason. That's incorrect. Condar is awesome. They are 8 feet tall though. Isn't that weird?